NIT నుంచి IIT నుంచి ఇప్పిస్తారట. So in the previous class, we have discussed different computing environments which are available in the current world. So in our today's class, we will see another important prominent area is cloud computing. Okay. See, up to now, whatever we have observed previously, like virtualization, peer-to-peer communication, client-server environment, distributed environment, okay, so and mobile computing, these all, each and every one is designed for a specific purpose, right? Distributed environment is going to address some kind of challenges, whereas the client-server environment will address some kind of challenges, and peer-to-peer communication is also address some kind of challenges. Similarly, virtualization. In the similar fashion, the cloud computing will also address different kinds of challenges. So in that, once again, I'll quickly revise whatever we have learned previously, because in order to understand this one should clearly understand what is happening in client-server environment and as well as peer-to-peer communication. Right? So in the client-server environment, what happens? All the resources are placed at a centralized storage area. Thereby, it provides facility to the users. They can access it. The users are called as clients. Okay, so they can access the resources which are available in the server, as the way you have access to your C compiler from the Linux environment in the lab. Okay, so here only we are able to access the softwares, right? Up to now, whatever we have seen, only software. And another important point is, suppose you have a laptop at your home or a desktop at your home. From your home, if you try to connect to our college server through LAN, is it possible? No. Definitely you can. So you suppose if you type the command SSH space 192.168.1.6 in order to connect to the server where your C software is available, that's not possible at your home as of now. What it means? There is no possibility of physical connectivity or logical connectivity between your system and the server. But if you type the same command within our college by using any one of the system in our laboratory, you can easily connect to the server itself. Okay, so what it means, if you want to utilize the services of the particular software, you are supposed to be present in the college, and by thereby accessing the college system, then only you can get the services or you are able to access it. That is one aspect. That means wherever it is available in the sense, like suppose if you are talking about Gmail, okay, you can connect to the Gmail server always. Suppose if you want to, if you have a Yahoo mail, okay, if you want to connect to the Yahoo mail, what you have to do? You need to connect it to the Yahoo server itself. You cannot connect a Gmail server to access your Yahoo mail, right? What I mean to say is two different servers. Whenever if you have two mails, you are supposed to connect to the two different servers. Like that, if your requirement is N, then you are supposed to connect to the N different servers. That is one aspect. And another aspect is each and every system is having certain limitation. Like, for example, my system is having 4 GB RAM and 1 TB of hard disk capacity, right? So I can utilize this space within the, whatever the space is available. According to that, I can access it and I can do I can run the applications. But if it is more than that, if my requirement is more than that, for example, if I'm dealing with some kind of big data applications or some image processing applications, or I want to analyze the sensor-based data, huge value. Probably my space, I mean, whatever the memory which is available in my system may not be enough for analyzing the huge volume of data. For that, if it is the scenario, what I have to do, either I need to increase the capacity of my system, or I can connect to this some other external storage area where I can keep all this huge volume of data. So another important point is here itself is storage area. One is application perspective, another one is storage area. So this all becomes one by one, it will become difficult for us, for any user, if the requirement is beyond their limits. Right? So here, what the cloud computing provides you is it delivers the computing, storage, and applications as a service over a network. Over a network. Whereas in the client-server environment, what it provides? Just simply provides the service. Here it also provides the storage area. These all as application as service. Okay, and we'll have three types of clouds. One is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So in the public cloud is where you can keep, and that means anyone can access it. Anyone can willing to pay for the service. Whereas in the private cloud, you just run by a company for an internal use only. Suppose if you're talking about our college cloud, okay, which is meant for our running applications which are related to our college only. So thereby, it won't allow any other user to access it. That means some other college people or some other common people wants to access our cloud, definitely it will be restricted. Whereas in the public cloud, anyone can. Maybe you may be a student, or you may be a general public, or you may layman, or whatever it may be, the role that you played in the society, they can access it by paying something. Even you are also you can call. I mean, you can also purchase the cloud storage area. Thereby, you can store your information, right? And hybrid cloud, a cloud with both public and private components. The single cloud, some part of it will be accessed as private or designated as private, whereas other part is public. All right. So these are the three different kinds of clouds which are available. Now, what we can do with the cloud, what kind of computing that we can perform? In that, the first one is software as a service, SaaS, right? So there, what happens is you by logging into your cloud, it displays various softwares which are available in it. Okay, if your requirement is Word document, for example, MS Office, you can pay something and thereby you can access it. You can access it for a period of time, just like what way we can call our antivirus software or something like that. Okay, you can pay for something just like rent, just like rent. Okay, and like that, all the whatever the softwares which are available on it, you can pay something and you can use it. You need not purchase the license and all. Just simply you can take it for the rent, and you can access it as long as you require. Right? Similarly, the platform as a service. So usually what happens in our system, either we need to install our Windows or a open source of Linux or some kind of operating system in order to execute our applications, right? But you want to test it on different kinds of platforms. Purchasing all these platforms will become difficult for the user. So for that reason, what we'll do, you can take any of the platform which you are required, which is required for your experiment. You can take it for the rent. So such kind is called as platform as a service. Then infrastructure as service. Infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure means servers and storage is available on the internet, such as backup servers, photo storage, file storage, and all these things, right? So, infrastructure as a service. Whatever the infrastructure that you want, suppose you want a 100 TB of storage area for running your applications, right? You can you can take as infrastructure. So these are the different kinds of services that are provided by the cloud computing. So it is a prominent research area, and a lot of research is going on in this area. So how best we are able to provide the services to the users, and security, especially security, as in our day-to-day scenario, the news channels, newspapers, every day we read something, this much of this particular account is hacked, or this particular server is hacked by someone, right? So day to day the technology gets increased, and parallelly the problems are also being increased, especially in the case of cyber security. So here the whole process is based on internet. So that is the reason here the security plays an important role. So that is the reason a lot of research is going on, how best we are able to provide the security to our data when it was connected to the internet. So you can view let us see the diagram what way it will help us, right? Internet customer request, the cloud customer interface. So internally it manages all these things: virtual machines, storage area, cloud management services, right? In all the things. And here the load balancing, this is also an important area where a lot of research is going on. Load balancer, how can we manage the load among all these things so that it can work properly? Because as in the client server environment, what we have observed is, if too many clients are there, if they made requests, a number of clients made requests at the same time, it becomes server. Here also, if you place n number of requests, if you are not following proper balancing mechanism, what happens? So definitely they are the electronic products, definitely it leads to the crash of the system, right? So that is the reason it is also an important area where a lot of process research is going on. One of the important part in this is cyber security, I mean security to our data. Another one is load balancing, and the third one is how best we are able to provide the services, or what way. I mean, I'm going to access the a particular movie. As you are all have very good experience in this area, when you're watching a movie on the online, what happens in that case? A lot of streaming problems are occurred. Continuously, a circle is rotating, right, while reading the data, right? Here also, for each and everything we are supposed to access via internet. You just imagine how much streaming is needed for this, and how best we are able to provide the services by avoiding all these things to the users. That is also another important area, or even it is a challenge for the developers of the cloud. Okay? So this is about cloud computing, right? Just a brief. Okay, so clouds may contain thousands of physical computers, millions of virtual ones, and petabytes of storage area. And web hosting services may offer virtual machines to each other clients, right? So here, whatever the data you want to keep, you can keep, or whatever the application that you wanted to run without purchasing it, you can execute, or you can develop your application and you can execute it on the environment where you want to execute it. All right. These are the some of the important areas where you are supposed to be focused regarding cloud computing. And anyway, real-time embedded system, which we have discussed previously. All right. Now let us look at about the important points what you are supposed to be remember as far as concerned with the real-time embedded systems is embedded into devices such as automobiles. Okay, automobiles, climate control. Yeah, you all are having embedded systems in your hand, that is mobiles, right? Similarly, climatic controlling systems, process control systems, and even toasters and refrigerators, these are all comes under the category of embedded systems, where we'll use the real-time operating system, especially in climate control systems and all. Okay, so thereby it reduces the, or it try to eliminates the human intervention. Okay, fine. Now, let us start looking about open source operating systems. Up to now, we have discussed about the proprietary operating systems where we need to purchase the license from the organizations like Microsoft and all. For example, you want to get the Windows, you want to get the Windows 10. So you can contact the Microsoft company. There you can purchase the license for a period of time, like 1 year. You need to pay something, whatever the charges that they mentioned in the website, you just pay it, and so that you will get the software and as well as the license key. All right. So probably it is not possible for all the people to get the license, right? Majority of us are using pirated data, right? Sorry. Coming to the open source softwares, they were developed for the public interest. Thereby, they will they will look after the common user requirements. Based on that, based on that, they will develop the. They will develop means the researchers, they can develop a different projects, different kinds of operating systems to fulfill the user requirement. So, and moreover, they made available to the common public. And for example, I was developed a particular operating system by keeping some important aspects regarding the users, right? Just like I want to develop a graphical user interface so that anyone can easily access it. Anyone can easily develop the applications by using the GUI, and they can run it. In such a way, if I was developed a particular project, assume that, an operating system. So, and I'll made it available to the all of you. What you can do, you can install it in your systems, and you try to practice, or you try to execute, you try to design and develop certain applications, and you may execute it on that environment, right? And suppose if I provide the code and all the things to you, what happens if some of you are good enough in the coding and all, probably you may change that code and you may convert it into a new one according to your requirements. That kind of facility is also be available with the open source systems. They are not designed for solving all kinds of problems, just for whatever the points that they have identified, keep it that in the brain, and they can develop some kind of operating system. So such kind of operating systems are called as open source. You need not pay anything. Directly you can download it and you can use it, just like our Linux, Unix. So you can access it for the free of cost. Okay. Some of the open source softwares, the code is also available. What way they were developed for that operating system is also available. So if your requirement is something different than the developed one, so you are able to modify it and you can use it for your own purpose, right? So open source softwares, initially it was published with the source code so that anyone can see and optionally modify the code, right? And open source software is often developed and maintained by a small army of loosely connected of an unpaid programmers, each working towards the common thing. Right? Initially, it was developed in such a way. And another important aspect here itself is critics argue the open source software can be bugged. But proponents, see here the meaning of this one is it is possible because if I was developed an application, you are going to use it. Right? While using that particular software, you may encountered some kind of problems with them, or some problems are occurred while using that particular software. Immediately what you can do, either you may be noticed to me like these kind of problems are exist, this is not debugged properly, like that you may write some comments on it. So that what happens, because I'm not thinking in that way, so that is the reason I'm unable to, or I'm unable to identify such kind of problems in my code. But as a user, you may think in different directions, and wherever you feel some difficulty, or wherever my application is not able to solve your requirements, so you can immediately notice it. So in such a way, it will be useful for us. Whereas if it is licensed, if I purchase a particular product for payment and identifying some bugs, and if I report it to the concerned company, right, it takes a lot of time to modify it. Whereas the open source environment, you can easily modify, and the critics are allowed so that they will try to modify it and make it as an effective application. Yes, if somebody is loaded a malware software into the your particular I mean, whatever the open source, what happens in that case? See here, for example, this is the website where some XYZ OS is available. Let us imagine. If I click on it, the version is available. You can download it. Okay. So the code is available in your system, right? And thereby you can install it in your system, and you can do, you can modify according to your requirement. But it is not possible to place malware in this website itself. Of course, that is also possible, but not directly. It is security aspects that comes under the picture. Hope you will clear with this point. I got your point, but whatever the answer that was given, probably I think it is enough. Okay, done. All right. See, usually these open source softwares are the very good resources for the users, because they can think about what way it was developed, what way it was executed, because the code is also be available. So that is the reason you can do a lot of experiments by executing that code, and you can verify what are the features that it will have, and all the things you can verify it, so that it gives some new idea where you are supposed to be think while developing a new applications. Because probably one language may have a strong set of concepts, whereas some other language will have some other kind of strong concept. Like that, each and everyone is having its own set of strengths and as well as weaknesses. If you know the various strengths of various languages, and thereby you can develop a new one by keeping all this in your brain, probably it will become somehow stronger than the previous version. Okay, so in the similar way here also, you can it will become a good resource for you for learning the uh, development of new operating systems. Okay, so initially in the 1950s, it was started. Later, there are a lot of research is going on, and finally in the 1983, Richard Stallman started a project name called GNU to produce an open source Unix. Okay, later it was published. Finally, still you can call it as GNU project. All right. After that, in the 1991, Linus Torvalds developed a new operating system. It's called as a Linux, okay, which is also a open source one. And here I was given the links from where you can download all these things. Of course, don't worry, I'll share this document with you. You just uh, observe what was displayed on the screen. And then BSD Unix, see, it was originally developed in AT&T Bell Laboratories, and the source code is made available to the computer students at many universities. But it is not fully open source because some part of this operating system is still under the control of AT&T for the security reasons. So we cannot call it as a open source, fully open source. Partially it is open source. That means some part of the code that you can execute and you can get the services of it, but not completely. Okay, that means some part you cannot modify it. So, in spite of various there are now several versions of BSD Unix, including FreeBSD, NetBSD, OpenBSD, and Dragonfly BSD. So, these are the different versions of the BSD Unix is available. Right? So, here is the information regarding this BSD Unix. If you want to read, you can go through this website. Right? Similarly, Solaris is another kind of open source operating system. It is just like a Unix operating system, but it is meant for the computers of Sun Microsystems. Okay, so it was developed based on BSD Unix, and since it is migrated at AT&T Bell Laboratories, and again, the part of this Solaris are now open source and some are not because they are still covered by AT&T copyrights. Just like BSD, because it is developed based on BSD Unix, they are different the features that they provide us. Like that, you can develop your own application based on all these or any one of these operating systems, and you made it available to the public. Once you understand all these operating system concepts, if you understand thoroughly, you can develop your own application. So this is something about the open source operating system. Okay. Now let us see the design goals of the operating system. Right. Now, up to now, what we discussed is what is an operating system, what are the different types of operating systems, okay, and what are the functionalities of the operating systems, and what kind of services that they provide, computing environments. So these are all things which we have discussed. Now, suppose if someone asks you to develop a new operating system for their requirement, okay, so what things you are supposed to be considered, let us see now. Okay, so design goals. So the first problem in designing a system is to define the goal and the specifications. Okay, at the highest level, the design of the system will be affected by the choice of hardware and the type of the system. So first of all, you should be clear with what the customer is or what the client is expecting after developing a new system. Okay, and what kind of configuration that they are going to be maintained, because the hardware is also plays an important role in designing the operating system. Now, so the requirements are broadly categorized into two groups. One is user goals and another one is system goals. So the user goals means the system should be convenient to use, easy to learn, reliable, safe, and fast. So these all things comes under the So these all things you are supposed to be keep it in your brain while developing a new operating system, because it should be more convenient, more and more easy to access it, right? And safe, and one can easily learn about it and fast. It can easily communicate with the hardware components so that it can quickly give the response to the user request, right? Whereas coming to the system goals, the system should be easy to design, implement, and maintain, flexible, error-free, reliable, and efficient, right? So finally, your system should be designed and implementing in an efficient way. So you need to be keep it to these 2 points as a different one, separate aspects, and keeping all these things in your brain, you can develop the new operating system, because these are all vague, and they may be interpreted in different ways. Sometimes you may call the system goals in a different perspective, whereas the user goals are in different. Okay, so you can implement all of them in different ways, but whatever it may be, ultimately you are supposed to be design a OS which can fit for the user requirements. Okay, so in the universe there is no unique solution to the problem, because so we have discussed so many kinds of open source operating systems or even computing environments. Okay, if the solution is unique, then why we need to develop a number of things? So there is no unique solution. Just only the thing is, it depends upon if you are able to define the requirements properly, then you can do, no doubt at all, you can easily and effectively implement the operating system. All right. Now, let us see some of the mechanisms and the policies. Mechanisms determines how to do something, whereas policy determines what will be done. I like to remember this point. Mechanism determines how to do something, whereas policies determines what will be done. So what you are supposed to do, that is policy. What way we can achieve, that is mechanism. So that the steps that you are followed to reach your goal is called as mechanism. So the defining the goal, that is what we are called as policy. So there is a separation of policy and mechanism. It's very important for flexibility. Policies are like to change across places or over time, because depends upon your environment, depends upon your requirements. Probably the policies may be defined, because in our college we are following some kind of policies. Some other college it may be different. It may be a different one, right? So like that, based on the place or based on the time or some other aspects, probably the policies may be different, right? And each change in policy would require a change in the underlying mechanism. For example, my policy is I want to reach from Vellore to Vijayawada. For that, I was adapted the mechanism of using bus. Is the transportation mechanism. By using it, I just want to travel so that I can reach my. That is the mechanism which I have. Suppose if you have changed the policy, instead of uh, going to Vijayawada, if you have changed your plan to Visakhapatnam, will I use the same bus? No, definitely you need to change the mechanism. That means you need to opt some other bus which will running on the road, Eluru to Visakhapatnam. Right? So similarly here also, whenever if the policy has changed, whenever if your policy has changed, you need to change the mechanism also. Okay. And in more general, the mechanism is available the impact of changing policy or mechanism is reduced. Okay, so these are all things. Okay, and implementation. Coming to the implementation part, the operating system is a collection of many programs, a set of procedures. Okay, and these all procedures are defined by the a group of people. They are continuously working on it for a long period of time. Finally, they developed it. Any operating system you can take. For example, you want to define a new one also. For that also, you need to be defined certain policies and the mechanisms. Thereby, after that, we can start working on it. Not a single person is able to implement it because we need to write so many modules. Because one module is taking care of file management, one module is taking care of resource management. One module is taking care of input devices, one is taking care of output. Like that, we need to develop n number of modules to take care of or to fulfill all your requirements. Okay, how many number of modules are going to be developed? That is depends upon the your requirements. Your requirements in the sense the operating system functionalities, whatever you are expecting from it. According to that, we'll develop all these modules. So we need to work on a group of people together for a period of time to produce the or to develop the all these modules. So early OS was written in assembly language. However, nowadays most of the OS are written in high-level languages. Okay. So advantage of this high-level languages, what is it? What is the difference between machine language and C language? So in the machine language, you are supposed to write the instructions in the form of zeros and ones, and whereas in the C program, you can write the instructions using your English. So writing instructions in zeros and ones become a difficult task for the user. Even it is very difficult for us for identifying the errors that are occurred while executing the application. Whereas in the case of C instructions, if you did any mistake, typing mistake or syntax mistake or any other kind of mistake, your compiler will take care of identifying such kind of errors and it was displayed on your screen so that you can easily correct it. Right? Well, then coming to the drawbacks of this high-level languages is we need to have the mechanism of converting this high-level language into system understandable format so that definitely the time it takes for processing an application gets down. When you compare the application which is written in machine language and as well as the C language, definitely the machine language instruction program will be executed very quickly. I mean, the time, there is a lot of time difference between, or time complexity between high-level programming languages and machine level languages. Okay. So these are the some of the things that you are supposed to be uh, considered while designing a new applications. Okay, so hope you all understood the introduction about the operating system. Let me verify the syllabus part, how far we have covered up to now and what we are supposed to be discussing. So coming to the first unit, operating system overview, operating system functions, operating system structure, operations, computing environment, open source operating systems, system structure, operating system services, user and the operating system interface, system calls, types of system calls, system programs, operating system structure. Okay. I think we have covered all these things except the system boot and operating system debugging. You also please verify the syllabus, and suppose if I forgot any particular point which I was not covered in this, you just notice if you give the, if you just bring it into my notice so that we will discuss in the upcoming classes. Okay. So in the next class, we will see the operating system debugging and system boot, and then we'll move to the, because second unit is more important in terms of concepts and as well as the examination point of view. So we need to be focused much more on in in the second unit also, right? Okay, all right. And now, if any one of you are having any kind of doubts, you please, even you can unmute yourself. Either you can drop the message or you can unmute yourself and you can ask if you have any query.